Books to Read. I'm Matt Hernandez. Maybe I should keep that name, Books to Read. I don't know, still learning. So today we're looking at this book here. It's Not About the Coffee, written by Howard Behar, former president of Starbucks International, and with a foreword by Howard Schultz, Starbucks founder and chairman, or as people say here, Singbaka or Singbaka Cafe. I hope I said that correct. I'm sure somebody will say that one of my tones or something like that's incorrect. So I hadn't gone to Starbucks in a little while, a little bit out of budget, but I did go today to make this review. Here I have Starbucks in my hand. I got myself a hazelnut latte. I walked to the nearest one with my family, and yeah. So I did end up enjoying this book quite a bit. It is a very short read, which is probably good for me because, I mean, it's a short read for many, but for me, I don't know, sometimes just finding the time to read and stuff like that still makes it take a little while. At first, I didn't care for this book because it just seemed to be quite full of platitudes, but when you read some of the stories that he has, though they're all very brief, you can tell that Howard Behar is being quite sincere in a lot of what he's saying when he talks about their efforts with, to partner with Pepsi and to make a carbonated coffee that they had really liked it, but then the customers did not. Some of their efforts to make fresh food and how much that wasn't really helping them in the end run. And maybe it makes sense that a lot of their foods there are microwaved and whatnot because, you go there for the coffee and you hope that they make the coffee very well. What I can say living here in China is that their drinks are still all consistently the same. I can't say that Starbucks is my favorite place to go, but in this last week or so when making this, I do have to admit that I have gone to Starbucks quite a bit. I mean, even during COVID, when we had the mandatory COVID tests, and by one of the malls I would go to, that there would be a Starbucks outside, and I would go there. And since I normally had to go and do the COVID test at the same place every time, I would normally stop by there rather than another place. I just moved, and at my last apartment, which was more of a hotel than an apartment, over there, they had two cafes downstairs, and they're both gone. And one of these newer cafes, or I mean, it's gone now. They had two locations, and their first one had a much better drink selection, but I was confused. Their new one didn't have as many drinks. And eventually their quality went down, and I just found myself going to the Starbucks a little bit. And in a sense, I couldn't help it. Anytime you order from Starbucks, you always know that the quality is consistent. And I always feel that maybe, oh my gosh, some coffee connoisseur or something like that might not hear me say all this or will have a different opinion. I mean, I have my tastes and my preferences in coffee, but it's not like I'm any kind of expert. But I always felt that Starbucks tastes a little bit burnt. And as I look in the book, whenever you read about even why they wanted to have no smoking in their Starbucks locations in Japan, and their first two locations did allow for smoking for a while at least, the founder and chairman, Howard Schultz, was afraid that it would mess with their consistency of coffee to allow for smoking and this kind of thing. And I had only ever briefly been to Japan, but here in China, smoking is huge. And of course, there's no smoking in Starbucks. There was another coffee place I liked, and they had a smoking section and stuff. And smoking is very common in China, very very common. So as I read, oh, guess I'll have a sip of this. Some people don't like that, huh? To take a sip of a drink while talking on video and stuff, but I guess it's a bit obligatory at the moment. So, as I read through so many of the stories in this, like how hard it was for them to expand into Canada, expand elsewhere, it did seem very authentic. It did tell me that I guess Howard Behar and Howard Schultz did have a good understanding of what was going on at different stores and stuff like that. Now, usually when I go to Starbucks, I do not feel that it is the most personalized quality at many of them. At the last location, at my last apartment, I did feel that it was much more personalized because it was always like the same two chicks working downstairs. Oh, I shouldn't say it like that, huh? Two female workers downstairs, and they were always very friendly. And even though they probably only had like 5 or 6 employees, it had like an Employee of the Month plaque, which I thought was kind of funny. I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like an episode of SpongeBob, and SpongeBob is like the permanent Employee of the Month. I haven't seen that episode in forever, but it did kind of make me think of that. Another thing here in China is that I can think of two different malls that have two Starbucks locations in a single mall. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, there's one mall I go to where when I go to like judo lessons and such, the side of the mall where the taxi usually drops me off is right next to a Starbucks location. But then if I go down into the basement floor and I go get a few groceries, there's also another Starbucks. I mean, what's with this? Starbucks everywhere. And then of course the Starbucks here at the malls almost always get the premium location of being having an entrance from the outside of the mall where you can walk through it to get into the mall. And that's a very premium location. There was a Tim Hortons at the same mall that I'm referring to where I go and get judo lessons and such. That Tim Hortons had a nice location like that, but now it's a bit like a open kiosk-esque location. But I'm not going to Tim Hortons for a while either. A little bit out of budget. So this video was an excuse to make or was an excuse to buy Starbucks rather than just drink my instant coffee for right now. But I think that I've rambled on for quite a bit, so I will show you guys some pictures of some of the pages from the book, along with a few pictures from a local Starbucks here. Yeah. So this is the author, Howard Behar, with the photo credit goes to Lisa Wolf Photography. Yeah, I see the resolution's pretty bad on the text below, but I guess, well, you know who did you know who took the photograph, and I gave credit. So this is a local Starbucks, says no smoking. Now normally you wouldn't take a picture of a no smoking sign, but the book did take up about 2 pages on this topic of well, no smoking. There's plenty of smoking outdoors with ashtrays and stuff like that belonging to the Starbucks outside. So I don't know if that's them bending their own rules or something like that. I do not imagine that I would see ashtrays at Starbucks in the US, do I? I don't know. I don't remember, honestly. Here's another plaque, and if you can read this, then you might be able to kind of know which Starbucks I went to. This is in Chinese, and don't ask me to read all of that because I can only read some of it. So look at that. They don't got those little like thingies, you go like this, and then you like pour more like the nutmeg and stuff into it, a little chocolate. I used to love doing that when I was like 15 and getting a Frappuccino and just putting even more chocolate on it. But they don't have that here. Here you can buy, whatever mugs and stuff. Now, the section's even larger, but then the other side has the city that I'm at. And I'm not sure if I should put the city that I'm at on one of these videos, huh? So here's a copy of, or here is the cover. Just put it on the screen. It's not about the coffee, lessons on putting people first from a life at Starbucks. Here's one of the first pages that I decided to take a picture of. If you look on the right-hand side on page 35, it says, the other decision was much more controversial, and still is. Semi-automated espresso machines. At the time, our machines weren't automated. Although they automated parts of the process, Howard Schultz hated them because he thought they took away from the romance of our core coffee business. But when we thought about our shared goal of 103 and looked at our core values, A people business serving coffee, the decision about automation became obvious. Our reasoning went as follows. Number one, quite a few of our people were experiencing carpal tunnel syndrome. We can't continue to do damage to our people. So, this one of these three reasons just kind of stands out to me. Now, if this was only one of the only examples that we see in the book about him being people centric and caring about others or caring about the people of his organization, maybe I dismiss it because part of the book did feel like quite a few platitudes without being so concrete about what it was about. I mean, it would have been pretty interesting if two of the most recent book review videos that I had made, if they were um just like short by something of a celebrity writing it, and then I'm like, oh well, look, but I did feel that he does seem very sincere with this, and it does make me respect the Starbucks brand a bit more. Enough so that I went to go get this drink and stuff like that. Now, reason three is it says there was tremendous inconsistency in the quality of our drinks. Yeah, I won't say that Starbucks is my favorite kind of coffee and such, but they're always consistent, and you always have that to say about them. At the hotel that I had, well, basically a hotel that I'd lived in for quite a while, um, there was another cafe I liked downstairs, but eventually their coffee was like lukewarm, and if I'm gonna drink coffee, either serve it to me cold or serve it to me hot. Don't serve it to me like you just took it out of the microwave or something. Okay, so this book mentions Canada and Japan a few times. It would have been interesting to hear about the China market, but as I look here at the copyright, the publishing time, it did say it was what, 2007, I believe it was. So maybe it hadn't gotten into, well, copyright 2007, 2009. So maybe it hadn't gotten into some of these other markets quite yet. And if you look here on the top left, Canada more than doubled their revenues and doubled the number of stores from 332 to 686 between 2002 and 2006. The results in morale and commitment were nearly immediate. And as we read down, so if I go down, and I should learn how to select parts of the screen better, my friend Bruce Nordstrom, a retired co-chair of Nordstrom, has said it right. He talks about providing freedom as the primary job of the employer. Freedom to serve, freedom to make decisions right on the spot, and and a management willing to live with those decisions. I don't know. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about part of this. I mean, as I read this, it does feel as if he cares enough about his employees. He says that he calls them partners. I should have taken a screenshot of page 24, especially with the style of videos that I'm trying to do here. But it says here, I took on the task of figuring out how we could make the salary adjustment a reality, knowing it was going to be tough, but that we could do our best to make it happen. So he describes trying to pay people more and how much revenue and profits they really had to make that happen. So I do believe that their care and for their employees, as they call them partners, is sincere, but I don't feel a sense of freedom from some of these jobs, right? I mean, after I make this video, I'll have to go to work, and I get quite a bit of freedom about what time I have to go in. I mean, I don't have any freedom so much about what time my classes are at work, but about what time I have to plan my classes and stuff like that. It's pretty flexible, really. And I don't know, do you guys get the sense of that? Of providing freedom to baristas and people who work at places like Starbucks? I don't know. Okay, so okay, here on the top right, commit the time to gain alignment. Truly trying to listen and communicate effectively requires more face time. People who come from other companies always accuse Starbucks of having too many meetings. Now, I I mean, I've always seen the meme, like, that meeting could have been an email, but I have felt that maybe, especially at my last job, maybe I would have been wanted to be inside of a few more meetings. And we do see from this that he is quite aware of what happens at quite a few of his stores and stuff like that. So um, he did seem to live by this. So maybe a maybe he could have included a few more stories in the book, but from some of the concrete examples, it does seem pretty sincere. Okay, here. So I also like this one here. So they were trying out different coffee flavors along with maybe coffee bean flavors or how to make up maybe whatever flavored drinks. And on the bottom left, page 118, we were starting out in our stores with Frappuccino, blended to order iced coffee beverage. It had become an instant hit. Well, yeah, that's what kind of got me on coffee. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I mean, at my age, when I was about 15ish or so, having Starbucks a couple of times at night, just having Frappuccinos. I mean, I thought they were delicious. So that's kind of how they hook in the teenagers, I suppose. I do imagine coffee is an acquired taste for most, right? And we do see a few of these that they had tried some things, with a carbonated coffee and a venture with Pepsi. And he does, and the author here is quite a bit vulnerable when he mentions some of these things. And I might have shied away from sharing some of these things. I mean, oddly, as I'm trying to make videos on YouTube, I feel that I have to overshare because to expose parts of myself that makes me relatable or something like that makes me more human. But otherwise, I wouldn't want to share certain things about myself. But I see that it is a way that people market and brand themselves, and maybe that could be quite effective. But maybe if I were Howard Behar, maybe I would be very hesitant to share so much about myself, which you don't see it here. I will show another page especially. So I think this is interesting. He has a motto. I don't know. Do you guys have a motto? My motto is think like a person of action and act like a person of thought. In some situations, this means feel, think, do. Other times, it means feel, do, think. I don't know. Is this do you guys have a motto? Is this a common thing? I don't know. Or maybe he just had to post this motto at places to show others. Okay, this one showed just how vulnerable he could be. Here on page 130, when tragedy strikes. In in the summer of 1997, Starbucks was a big company with more than 35,000 partners. There were stores in the United States, Canada, Singapore, and Japan, and aggressive plans to open throughout Asia and the world. Okay, going down a few sentences. On the evening of July 6th, a man came into one of our Washington, D.C. stores just after closing at the end of the 4th of July weekend and opened fire. Now, I cannot add any commentary to this, and I wouldn't know how to, but what I can say for the author is that for him to open up and to write here that he cried, and I believe he must have been sincere about saying all that stuff, that must have been a hard experience to go through, and I could not imagine what it must feel like to somehow feel some degree of responsibility, to pay people their checks and have them be responsible for their duties at work and to have to go through all this. I don't think I could say much more without fumbling on some kind of sentence in some inappropriate way by accident or something, but it does show how vulnerable he is, and there are a few other moments, but this is the strongest of these in the book. Okay, so with the Japan example, I said on the intro part before I showed pages on the screen, but he mentions a bit of a challenge in Japan because of just how much people smoke there. Now, I'd been to Japan briefly, but I do remember at least at that time in 2008 having or was it 2009? Maybe 2009, having indoor smoking sections even at like fast food convenience store places. I mean, it is interesting though, because here where I live in China, Lawson is everywhere, and Lawson is a Japanese convenience store, and they don't sell cigarettes. So the only thing that keeps other convenience stores open, I believe, because Lawson's pretty good and stuff, is the fact that other convenience stores sell cigarettes, and Lawson does not. Well, I think this is the last page of these that I had done, so now I'll do my conclusion. Okay, I think a little bit of what I said had been a bit long-winded, so thank you very much for your patience. I do not think that I will take 10 more cuts of making this, just because I also went to the Starbucks to go get this drink to make this video, my hot hazelnut latte, which is now kind of warm, and it'll be cold soon. So I did actually believe that the author was quite sincere by the end of it, and I do believe that he'd shown some of their trial and error, and some of their attempts throughout the years to try this or that, which some things worked and some things didn't. But on some parts, especially the tragedy that I had read, that he showed himself to be quite vulnerable, and he showed some things that had failed and stuff like that. So, I don't know what else I was going into the book expecting to read about things that are just more concrete. I mean, he mentioned his time, I hope, selling furniture. I hope I got that correct. I guess you can see a little bit of a furniture here, which is not just Starbucks furniture. Maybe it is some kind of model or something that Howard Behar would have sold before in the past. And I hope I said that correctly to say sell, because maybe I should have taken another note about what his position was, but he'd been at Starbucks since, I believe, 1980. Oh my goodness, 87, 89. Ah, so embarrassed to have not have taken even more notes on that. But that's what I try to show some of the pages. That way you guys can see some of it for yourself. So I believe this has been long enough, but yeah, there's always plenty that we can talk about even with a short book. So have a great day, and maybe go and have some coffee.